Hello and welcome to episode 76 of the Arena Regulars podcast. I'm Zach,
And I'm Jeff.
and we're your source for weekly drunken Magic the Gathering arena content.
That's right, just two regular dudes drinking some irregular soda and talking about Magic the Gathering, in particular the online client MTG Arena.
Oh gosh, I'm so I'm so excited for this episode because I know Jeff is very reluctant with what we're drinking tonight. So anyway, we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, this episode is one of my favorites, as always. It is our on draft episode, so we're talking all about limited for New Capenna, specifically draft. So I'm excited. I've been doing a lot of drafting, so I'm really excited to get into it. But first, each week we both bring a drink. We drink Jeff's, then drink mine, rate them on a scale of bronze to mythic. Choose the best for last. So with that, Jeff, what's on tap?
All right, so I thought we were supposed to bring a beer each week. It says that even in the show notes, but I guess we had to change things up. To close out our tap takeover of Third Moon Brewing Co., we've decided to pick up their assortment of seltzers. Now, there's a reason for this, and it's because their seltzers are called Bubbles, and presumably Bubbles is a clown. A very, very creepy and terrifying clown that shows up in the art on each can.
That's really the only reason. It was a funny name and the scariest looking clown I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Yard Wolves did their art for the zombie thing last week, and we thought that was creepy. And he's just outdone. They've just outdone themselves this time.
This one's the scariest. So we have three on the docket for this evening. Jeff, what are we starting with?
All right, this one's called Mango because it's the mango bubble. So it's Bubbles Mango. You said something about maybe these have malt in them?
Yeah, so what's interesting about these as well, that obviously there are a lot of seltzers on the market. White Claw is like exploded and everyone has their own version of whatever. Even Bud Light and Coors are in there. And so everybody is doing this. It's been a big rage since 2020. And this is one of the first ones where I was on their website and they're talking about how it isn't actually gluten-free because they do have some malts in the seltzer, which means that there are trace amounts of gluten, but significantly less than any of their other beers, of course. So we'll have to talk about whether that actually did something for us or not. I'm also not 100% sure if it's in this one specifically. I know for sure it's in one of the other ones later on. So we'll have to get to that. But yeah, so far it's checking some of the boxes that I need for seltzers. I drink a lot of seltzers. Jeff, let's just quickly talk about seltzers because we got to get it out of the way. You seem like you don't drink a lot of seltzers or any sort of like alcoholic bubbly thing that's not beer, really.
So I don't drink seltzers, the pre-made ones. They're none that I'm into. But I'll have like a gin and soda or something.
Sure.
That I'll make myself, so I can control how much lime goes in, how much gin goes in, and the soda. And that's pretty much all I do. Like I never really experiment with other flavors. It's always just lime.
Gotcha.
And I like those a lot, but I don't know. Something feels weird about like paying for a canned version of that I'm not going to like as much as one I could just make.
Okay.
On my own.
All right. So you may like seltzers more than seltzers because you make them yourself.
Ooh.
Oh God, that was
But
horrible.
yes. Whereas beer, it's a lot harder for me. I can make it on my own, but it's a lot harder and more expensive. And so it feels okay to pay somebody else to do that.
Yeah, and they're usually a lot better. No offense. I love your beer, but there's obviously you can get
More
a lot
profesh.
Yeah.
I don't have the equipment they have access to, Zach. God.
That's true. Yeah, it's very expensive. I also like, as we'll get into it, just starting off with their main one is mango. Very nice because, as you were saying, lemon and lime are ones you can really make well at home by yourself. So I don't often add mango to my drinks, so it's good that this one is. All right, we have some Magic news. There is an arena open this weekend, May 14th and 15th. Day 1 is sealed, Day 2 is draft. Hey, good thing we're talking about limited because we can help you out.
Maybe.
Maybe. Also, next weekend is going to be the New Capenna Championship. They're playing Standard and Historic, which is May 20th to the 22nd. But more importantly, that Saturday is the first play-in event for the qualifier weekend. So you can use your play-in points or just use your gold or gems to get in on May 21st. And I believe it's a best of one Phantom sealed event.
Right. And then the best of three event is always the Friday before the event, right?
Correct. Before the qualifier weekend. So it'll be our first time looking at these play-in events and seeing how we feel about them, because we've been pretty excited. So it'll be good to get the first one under our belts.
Yeah, very cool. I'm also excited to see the new Capenna Championship deck list, because I've been playing some Standard. I think it's pretty cool. And I haven't played any Historic, so I'm curious to see what's going on there too.
Yeah. So there you go. Always fun, and we'll break that tournament down after it happens. But hey, Jeff, I think it's time. Let's talk about some new Capenna Limited. So fun.
Love it.
It's all I've been doing. It's always the first thing I do with a set because, of course, I'm trying to collect as many cards as possible. And in that regard, I am doing quite well. I feel like I have like close to. I might need like 6 more of the Tri-lands, but I have almost all of the what is it? The Triomes. It's I've been going after them. So yeah, my collecting period has been very good.
Yeah, same. I picked up a bunch of Triomes, like disproportionately many to how often I've been drafting. I think the last draft I did, there were just 2. Like, I opened Jetmir's Garden and then got past Jetmir's Garden. And I was like, all right, I'll start like this. That's fine.
Yeah.
Wanted to collect Ob Nixilis, but I never saw him, and then accidentally crafted them all because I built a deck, and then for Explorer, Rakdos Anvil, and then I meant to delete it, but the delete button is next to, like, the craft all button, and I just crafted everything. And so I crafted all 4 Ob Nixilis by accident. But other than that, I've been collecting a lot of the cards that I wanted to pick up. In particular, kind of eyeing those Triomes and just taking them. And people pass them, so if people are going to pass them, I'm going to take them.
Yeah, and they pass them a lot. And I think it's actually probably incorrect. Having Triomes is actually good in the draft as well. But anyway, so we should get into that. So this is a 3-color draft set, right? Like all the shards are 3 colors, or the families in this case, and they're kind of pushing you into those things. Last week we talked a bit about how it might be smart to stay in 2 colors and then just try to splash the third. And after another week of playing the format, I still think that's correct. I think this format is a lot faster than I initially was thinking. Going into a 3-color set, I thought it would be a lot more of like the first few turns, everyone's just fixing their mana, and then you can do big stuff later. No. People come at you fast.
Actually, like, some games I'll be playing and my opponent won't play a 2-drop. They'll just play a second tapped land. I'm like, oh, it's going to be an uphill battle for you.
Yeah.
Like, it already feels like you're so far ahead because they didn't play a 2-drop. Which is another theme we'll come back to. 2-drops and 3-drops are both good and important in this format.
Very much so. Very, very important. So having your splash or your mana fixed early is fantastic. So even playing the Triomes that you feel like, oh, I don't really need this or whatever, having those in your deck can be really helpful, because if your turn 1 play is all my mana's here, awesome. It's so helpful because most of the time on turn 2, you're like, now we're just slamming every card in my hand.
Now, I know you've played a bit more sealed than me. I just did the pre-release, but the rumor is that sealed, which makes sense, sealed is slower. The rumor is that for 5-color good stuff is better in sealed, or at least more common in sealed than it is in draft, because you just open a bunch of lands, you're incentivized to play your powerful cards, and it's a bit slower by nature.
Yeah, I think that is true, and I heard a lot of people complaining early on about how it just felt like 5-color good stuff every time they were playing sealed. But my experience wasn't really that way. It was just kind of like you would think, oh, there's all these treasures around, people are just going to be splashing stuff. Well, you don't always want to be in those treasure colors, so it's actually better to just have like a better deck with that does all the things from draft. And I still think you might be able to get past like a strictly 3-color deck because it's a bit easier to do and have success with it. But again, I would just try to play 2 colors and have good mana. Good mana is the name of the game, and not having to rely on treasures sounds great.
Yeah, to me, it's a bit of an opening, actually. If I know that everyone in Sealed is playing 4 and 5 color good stuff, I'm always going to try to lay out my best 2-color aggro deck because you'll just get free wins from people who don't play anything till turn 4. You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's worth, if you're going to play in this Sealed event, which I might, we'll have to see if I can find the time. But if I do, one thing I'll be looking out for is just trying to see what 2-color decks my pile can build, my pool can build. I called it a pile just because that's what I'm used to. You know, it's always, my deck's always a pile. So
Yeah.
if I could build a 2-color deck with a light splash, that's what I'm going to lean towards, because if everyone else is doing all this 5-color stuff, I'm not convinced that the payoff for that is so powerful that it's, crazy for me not to do it. Because that's what it was like in Kaldheim.
Yeah.
Right? The payoff for going like 5-color green is what the deck was called, was just so high that there was almost like the only reason you wouldn't do it is if you didn't get the green fixers that you need to make it work. This format seems a bit different. It seems like people are more tending towards it because you're gonna get a bunch of tri-lands and dual lands anyways, and so might as well play your good cards. But it doesn't seem like it's so much more powerful than just building a regular deck, that the slow, how slow your deck is always worth it. So I would be looking to actually try and get under those people. And honestly, just treat it like it's not, just forget that it's a multicolor set. What deck would you build? What 2-color deck would you build if this was any other format? And then try to look into like splashing some powerhouse cards.
I think that's a great plan. So again, building your deck in a sealed pool is very important. So take some extra time with it. When you're drafting, of course, you get to build your deck as you go. And with sealed, it can be a little overwhelming, and sometimes you just look at your rares and then just like build around those. Make sure to look at some of those commons, because as we're going to talk about, commons in limited really, really help your deck out. And as Jeff will say, his sealed pool didn't have any good commons, so that's why he lost, even though he had a bunch of bombs.
It's true. It's true. My deck sucked. Although I did open the best card in the set, the Sanctuary Warden, and left it on the bench. So maybe it was just some inexperience on my end. Like, if I'd taken my own advice and just built a 2-color deck that included, like, that was just, like, red-white or something, obviously, red-white's not really where you want to be, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if I just played Urabrask and Sanctuary Warden, I might have done better.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, Jeff, let's get into some more of the nitty-gritty. So as we're talking about this, we're kind of going to talk about the 2-color pairs, and then instead of really talking about the families and seeing, because of course, if you're opening some of these charms or these like legendary creatures, you can splash for them. But as we were saying, sticking with our own advice, staying in the 2-color realm. And the place we really want to start, and where I start every draft now, is looking to see if I can play white-blue. White-blue is exactly where I want to be. Every time I'm looking for those good, cheap flyers that can and just sail over everybody and, well, kill them before they have all their colors.
Much like Midnight Hunt, blue-white is the best color pair in this format. I think it's by a pretty healthy margin too. Like I think that both white-blue families are like the top 2 families. Maybe Maestro's is sort of on par with the Obscura, possibly. I don't know if I have enough data to really make that decision. I think those are closer, and then I think Brokers is the best. But certainly white-blue offers you access to the top 2 or like tied for second and first families. And so that's just a great place to be, and it has a lot of really strong commons. So, I mentioned last week, my pick for best common in the set was the white-blue flyer that taps it down, Frostlink Sky. I was telling Zach before the show, as soon as we ended that show, I was like, oh no, it's obviously the 2-1 flyer that draws a card when it enters the battlefield. That has to be the best common. So I will reluctantly amend my choice to
There we go.
Inspiring Overseer. I still think the one I picked is really good. It's probably like top 5. But it's the fact that this one is monocolored, I think, gives it the edge. And honestly, if you were the one who kind of tipped me on to this, Rafine's Informant. This card is just really, really good. Like, I think I just kind of blew past it when I was reading it and didn't really think about it much. But then you mentioned it was good, so I started putting it in my decks and taking it really highly. And it's been amazing. So it's just like a 3/2 that loots for 2. Like, that's crazy for a common.
It's just like one of the best 2-drops, in my opinion. Especially if you have any sort of counter synergy, like the Angel you were talking about. Rafine's Informant is amazing. It gets you the colors you need. I love it. You know what's also crazy about white? Is that Backup Agent, which is like the Iron Shell Beetle, which we're so used to. It's like the 2-mana 1/1 that enters and gives something a +1/+1 counter. It's actually pretty good in a deck where you're trying to put things on flyers or getting a +1/+1 counter on your flyer or like your unblockable fish becomes like quite good.
Oh, it's so much better here than we've seen it in green in other sets. Yeah, and like you were saying, Rafine's Informant's a great 2-drop, and 2-drops, like we're saying, are important in this set, so it's like just awesome. Backup Agent, another good example. It's like a really solid 2-drop, and it looks kind of innocuous as like a grizzly bear with minor upside, and that's usually the role that this card plays in green. But like you said, because of the counter synergies, it's just so much better here than it usually is.
And some of the blue stuff, like there are certain decks that feel like if they play an Echo Inspector, which is the 4-mana 2/3 flyer with Connive when it enters the battlefield. If you have a 3/4 flyer, it just becomes like it's just like so hard to get through or to be able to block or blow up. And there's a lot of cards that deal a certain amount of damage that isn't 4, and you're like, wow, this thing is so irritating, and it's just this great common.
Echo Inspector is so annoying, and then it often has like a shield counter you have to punch through as well.
Yeah.
Some sort of broker's veteran died or something and put the stupid counter on the Echo Inspector, and you're like, I'm never gonna beat that card. Like,
yeah. It just becomes
a 3/4 flyer that I have to kill twice.
Yeah, or it just becomes so strong. I've died so many times to Echo Inspectors in the air. They like turn 4 Echo Inspector, turn 5 Echo Inspector. I'm like, God, okay, what am I can't even deal with the first one. I'm screwed. Like, it's over. So I started picking them very highly, and I'm a big fan of the Flyers deck. But, Flyers are always good, but this is the best we've seen it in a while, it feels like.
Yeah, Blue-White Flyers back in a real way as a draft archetype here. So that's essentially what you want to do. You want to be picking these good flyers and then just sort of tempoing your opponent out. Cards like Run Out of Town are really nice here. That's the one that puts a non-land permanent on the top or bottom for 4 mana. So it's like totally lost, but a bit cheaper. I found that card to be really decent.
I've actually really liked Rooftop Nuisance. Even just playing it by itself, tapping something down, specifically a reach creature or a flyer, so that you're getting through and you draw a card off of it as well. And if you have like a random expendable lackey or even a broker's veteran that you want to sack, or like a backup agent that sort of used the counter, you're like, sweet, I'll just tap 2 things down and draw 2 cards for 3 mana. It's just it just always does what I want it to do. I just always feel good with this card. And it's normally a card I'm not interested in.
I know, I was going to say, it's like not a Zach card at all. This is usually a card I would be playing, and you would not like. But I thought this card was absolutely insane, because I thought it was an instant. Now that I see... And then when I learned it was a sorcery, I came down a bit on it, obviously. So it means you can only really use it offensively and not defensively.
Which makes me like it, because I want to attack.
Sort of use it defensively, because it doesn't untap. But it's not like the powerhouse that I thought it was at instant. Because you get two turns of no attacks if it was instant.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably still very good. I'm just sort of low on it because I came in so high on it and then played a game, passed the turn, and then couldn't cast it. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I really should have just cast it on my turn.
Yeah, and I think I did the opposite, where I knew it was sorcery and was really low on it, and then ended up reluctantly putting it in my deck, and then playing it and be like, wait, ooh, actually, drawing 2 cards and getting rid of a stupid creature I don't care about, and tapping their stuff down so I have attacks, I think this is I like this.
Totally, yeah. Are there any like uncommons that you are really looking for in this archetype?
A lot of the stuff that I like here, I've seen some people do stuff with Fairy Vandal, especially if you're kind of leaning more in the Obscura sense of the white-blue deck. But Sleep with the Fishes, because those 1/1 fishes end up killing people so much. Like, they are really something to deal with.
They're actually, the fish are really good.
Yeah.
I don't know if I expected it, but they're very good.
So I really like that. And then the Citizen's Crowbar has really surprised me. I know it's more of like the it's a card that is seen as being a cabaret card because it's a citizen, but you can still put it on your flyer. It's a 2-mana play that gives you a 2/2 body, like, and it's one of the things that there are problematic artifacts in the set that can be difficult to deal with at certain times if your opponent ends up having that the shovel, the ceremonial shovel thing, and you just are a little behind and you can't block this trampling thing every turn. Ceremonial Groundbreaker. There aren't a ton of
card has been good for me.
Yeah, there aren't a ton of good ways to blow up artifacts. So being able to have like a 2/2 early that later can make one of your flyers more powerful, and then if necessary you can blow up an artifact. I've been really impressed with the Crowbar. It's a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, the card that I've noticed too. Obviously, there's the Metropolis Angel, which is like the 3/1 that. I thought it only like drew a card if it attacked with a counter, but no, it's whenever you attack any creature with a counter, you draw a card. It's kind of ridiculous. But in terms of monocolored cards, I just love Mage's Attendant. I just love that card. It's like the 3/2 that makes a 1/1 wizard that just like can sack to make them pay 1 extra. What's that called?
Force Spike stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This card is so much value for 3 mana. It's like 4/3 worth of power and toughness across 2 bodies with a nice little Force Spike loaded in that just feels really pushed for a limited card.
Yeah.
And then in blue, there's the the Connive Mana War guy, Psychic Pickpocket. Yeah, its card's just sort of obviously good, should go in any blue deck. But I particularly like it in this one because you're often racing because they can't kill your flyers, and so it just buys you so much. The 3/2 body plus the looting plus the bouncing is just crazy, and it bounces a non-land permanent just for extra, just to be extra good.
Just to be
have to be a creature. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you haven't noticed, like we said, this is where you want to be. Try your best to be here.
Yeah.
Though
this is the one I've drafted the most, which is why I have the most things to say about it.
This is the one I have tried to draft the most, and often I get pushed out because it seems like other people are on board because they can tell white is like the best.
It's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret at all.
Yeah.
But I have some experience playing blue-black, which we're kind of moving into right now. Yeah. So I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to play a deck with 4 Snooping Newsies in it, and the Snooping Newsie happens to be one of my favorite cards in this set.
I love it. I love it. I'm always surprised that it's a common. Every time I read it, I know it's a common, but still every time I see it, it just feels like it should be an uncommon.
So this is the one that it's a Demir for a 2/2. When it enters, it mills the cards. Mills yourself 2, and then if you have 5 or more card mana values in your graveyard, it gets +1/+1 in lifelink. But having a bunch of these is great. The one thing I will say, because Demir is all about making sure you have different mana values in your graveyard, it's really helpful if you know you're drafting this early, because picking things like picking 1-drops becomes pretty important. Because the main way you get there is by having a land and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that's all 5. Building your deck around this can be pretty important. And I do think you should do it fairly early if you're drafting this.
Yeah, and also I really like the sort of Evolving Wilds fake cards with this, just to get the land in there. I
was going to say, those whatever they're called, the safe houses or something. I don't exactly know what the real name is, but like they're the Evolving Wilds things. Just being able to dump one into your yard like really early is like turn 1, dump it, get the fixing so you can play the newsy on time is just awesome. And then you're like hopefully 3/5 of the way there by the time you play it. And then racing someone with just an army of 3/3 lifelinkers, it becomes really hard for them to stop that.
Yeah, this card just plays like both sides, right? It's the 2/2 that you need early to keep up and or apply pressure. And then in the late game, it just becomes relevant. So it's really nice. Otherwise, black-blue's kind of doing black-blue things. Like, I don't think you're not really going to need to go out of your way in the game to make sure you hit the 5 mana value thing. If you do it during the draft or during deck building, just to make sure you have a wide spread and you have some of these sack lands, then you'll just kind of get there. So I wouldn't play anything really, really bad just to
for
make
the
sure
mana.
you hit that, because the power level of commons and uncommons in this set is high enough that you don't need to.
Yeah.
Basically.
I will say, when you play a bunch of cards that mill yourself, I did run into this where I was playing this deck, and I don't think this is correct. I don't know if it's right, but this is what I did. I ended up milling myself to death a few times early, and I said, you know what? I'm going to add 4 cards to my deck. And so I played a 44 card deck, and I won every match after that, and ended up trophying with the deck because I had this stupid 44 card thing. But I wasn't worried about milling myself. I didn't have to like hold a Snooping Newsy at the end of the game in my hand, being like, if I play this, I die.
How many of these cards did you have?
I had 4 of those, and then I had 4 of the sack lands. So as soon as you play them, you pull another card out of your deck, which ends up being hard. And
Still, those games must have gone pretty long.
Yes, but also there's also the what is it? There's the white Sky Crier that makes you and an opponent draw a card. That ends up milling people sometimes. So if you get in a weird stalemate situation, you quickly start thinking, "Oh man, I have milled a lot of cards, and this could be bad for me."
Yeah.
But I did want to talking about some of these black commons. The first one that always jumps out is we have murder in the set. Now, is murder as good as it usually is? Because I'm really wondering now.
So no, I think they're telling us that because murder is almost always uncommon, and it's like, I think occasionally it shows up at common and is just like the best common in the set, and then often it's uncommon. Here, I don't even think it's the best common in the set. There's a few reasons for it. There's a lot of stuff that, like, when it's in your graveyard can do something. Like, I'm looking at Maestro's Initiate right next to it. You can exile it from your graveyard to draw 2, discard 1. There's also, like, the shield counters really make murder a lot worse, because it isn't just the will definitely kill anything that it usually is, because sometimes it just won't be able to kill stuff unless you get that shield counter off. And there's a few other things too, like tokens are kind of real. There's a lot of tokens going around, and it's pretty bad against tokens. So there's a lot of reasons that murder is just not what it usually is. That being said, I'm not advocating for not taking murder. You should take murder. It's good. But
Yeah.
It's not like the Windmill Slam first pick that it usually is.
Yeah, it really feels like, sometimes normally you'll feel like, oh sweet, I have like 3 murders in my deck, and this set I'm like, I think I have to cut one because I don't know if I want to play that many double black cards.
It's a little clunky.
It's a little clunky, and it's like, oh sweet, I kill their overseer, their angelic overseer that already drew a card and gained a life. Like, this kind of sucks.
Right. There's a lot of sort of ETB value on a lot of creatures too, which again makes murder sort of like 2-for-1ing yourself. That being said, it's still like really nice to have if your opponent has a bomb, you have an answer to it. It just feels like a lot of the time I'm sitting on murder and then end up using it on something dumb that's already hit me for like 6. And,
Yeah, because I'm about to die.
It doesn't feel like.
Yeah. So keep that in mind when you're drafting, because it has been my downfall in some drafts, I think. So
Yeah.
overall with these, another thing about black, so we have this, there's these random cards that are like pay life oriented. There's like the Vampire Shrivener that, like, if you paid life on your turn. It's like the 5-mana 2/2 flyer that if you pay life or gain life on your turn, it gets a +1/+1 counter. So then there's this Cutthroat Contender, which is the 1-drop that you can pay a life and it gets +1/+0. I don't really like this. Also, I think playing a creature on 1 for the most part, I'd much rather be playing a tap land. Like my turn 1 just wants to be a tap land, so my 2-drop is really good. I don't know if I like these 1-drop creatures very much at all.
Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I've never played Cutthroat Contender, and I don't really plan on playing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like that card, the White Initiate, Broker's Initiate, Cabaretti Initiate. A lot of these 1-drops are like, oh, these are not where I want to be. Man, I wish my first play was either a sack land to fix my mana or a tap land or something.
For sure.
Probably with the exception of Expendable Lackey, but that card makes a fish, and fish are good. So
right, the opportunity cost of 1-drops is pretty high when you have so many tap lands.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, like you're saying, get my mana on board than play an 0/4 that I can sink a bunch of mana to turn into a 5/5 late. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Everyone else seems to love that card because I play against it all the time, but I have not been impressed.
I play
like, you have to be really
all the
defensive,
time.
right? Like you have to be a control deck.
Yeah.
One card in black that I really like. I don't know how you feel about Girder Goons. This is like the 4/4 for 5 that dies into a 2/2 and has Blitz. It's just like, why does this card has so much going on? It's so good.
I at first had not really liked Girder Goons because I wasn't super high on Blitz just in general because that's like the Jund mechanic. But this card specifically has been awesome because I always want to Blitz it because I'm like sick. Like I get to hit them for 4 or trade, which they don't want to trade. Then I get a 2/2 and a card. This is amazing. For 4 mana, I love this.
Yeah, and if you're more defensive, you just play it as a 4/4 that dies into another creature that's super annoying to deal with, right?
Yeah.
And if you're aggressive, if you're on the front foot, you blitz it, and it's just like really hard for them to come back. Yeah, that card has impressed me a lot. And a card in blue-black in particular, I didn't mention it during blue-white. I still think it's pretty good in blue-white, but it's just better than I thought it was, and that's Make Disappear. 1 and a blue for like... Normally I don't like quench-type cards, in limited. This is like quench with Casualty 1. But the Casualty 1 makes it so much better because in the late game, you just trade in like a crappy 1/1 to counter their spell. And so it really is like in the early game, it's counter anything. And in the late game, it's still pretty close to counter anything. As long as you have a dorky 1/1 around or whatever, which they're all over the place. So I've really liked Make Disappear, but I like it a bit better in blue-black for a few reasons. It's just nice. Gets like you going with the 5 mana values in graveyard. Sometimes it can even put 2, but usually it's just nice to get a 2-drop into the graveyard that way. But you can also, there's a lot of instants in Obscura, so if you end up in Obscura, or Maestro's actually also has a lot of instants, so the counterspell value goes up. Whereas I find in the blue-white decks, you're usually tapping out for a flyer. This is still good because later on you can counter something as like a tempo play. But I find it a bit better in the blue-black because that leads to like 2 decks that have a lot of instants, basically.
Yeah, I heard something that was really helpful. Basically, people were talking about how this can basically be in place of your 2-drop. So instead of playing your 2-drop, depending on if you are on the draw or on the play, you counter their 2-drop or 3-drop. And that's just your 2-drop play is holding this up. And which...
Right, it's like Essence Scatter, which is a very good card. In limited generally, but I like that it can counter spells and in the late game. Like usually, if it's pretty late, 4 is enough. If they have 4 excess mana on top of the thing they're casting, the thing they're casting probably isn't that good.
Probably sucks.
Right?
Yeah.
Or they just have so much mana that whatever, like this game's gone. You should have used this earlier.
Yeah. But no, I think you're right. I have been more impressed with this because I tend to, I don't play a lot of counterspells anyway, normally, but yeah, I have been liking this card.
Yeah, I think it's actively good, whereas normally cards like this are bad, and you should only play them if you have to or if it suits your deck. Here, I'm like actively looking for one of these in my blue decks.
Nice. Jeff, I have finished my drink. And
Same.
Perfect. I think let's take a break. It won't be a beer break. It'll be a seltzer break.
God. Don't make me say seltzer break, man.
Do we need something else? Seltzer. I don't know. What's another word for like break? I don't know. Whatever. We're gonna call it a seltzer break. I'm fine with that. And then we'll come back and talk about the rest of the pairs. Our first seltzer break is brought to you by our patrons over on Patreon.
That's right. You're already supporting the show just by listening, but if you want to support the show even more, well, our Patreon, that's the way to do that.
And when you become a patron, you get an exclusive invite to our after party, which is a mini episode recorded immediately after this one, where we ramble on about some other stuff.
Plus, you get to vote on which one of us you dislike more by buying one of us a seltzer.
Oh, I guess I enjoy seltzers, so you can buy me one, and I will. I'll be happy with that. Hey, alcohol's alcohol. Anyway, you can go to patreon.com/arenaregulars to help us make the show better, and maybe if we have more money, we can buy beers again. Whoa. All right.
So I will give it to them. These do look a little like beer. Like, they look like a light beer because they're sort of translucent and golden in color and overly carbonated. These look like Coors Light.
Yeah, they do look like Coors Light. Maybe a little bit lighter than that. Now that my glass is less frosted, I can see what you were talking about at the beginning of the show with there are little particles in here. Seems like it's possibly an unfiltered something else has happened with this. It's not just like soda water that they added alcohol and a flavor. This went through some sort of process.
I wonder if it's like some sort of natural fermented, like extremely light beer that then they add like vodka to or something. Do we even know what alcohol is being added?
We don't. I actually don't know anything about
say
that.
On their cans.
It doesn't say on the cans. I didn't see that on the website.
A creepy clown.
Yeah. So this one, of course, I had to do one of the weirdest ones, but so this is Bubbles Goes to the Circus, and it is cotton candy flavored.
And it's just that same creepy clown from the first one holding cotton candy at a circus.
And being really sad, but also fucking creepy.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
It's so creepy. This could be one of the scariest pictures we've done. Anyway,
yeah.
Cheers to the cotton candy.
The cotton candy seltzer.
Honestly, this is the one that sold me the most on doing the seltzers because there's cotton candy flavored. I was like, I've never seen that before, and we have to do that.
It smells so much like cotton candy.
It's so like sweet smelling. Fuck, this is gonna be the weirdest like review ever. Stay tuned for that at the end. But Jeff, let's jump back into some of these color pairs and what we think about them and how they kind of work in the families that they are around. Next up, Black Red, your favorite. Jeff, lead us off.
Woohoo! Yeah, my favorite overall in this format. Not my favorite. Yeah, I think of the big ones, this is, you know what, maybe the one we're going to do next is the worst. But this one's, like, pretty bad, I've found. And I think that owes mostly to Riveteers being the worst family.
Yeah.
So I guess we didn't totally mention Blue-Black last time. It goes into Maestros and Obscuro. We talked about both of those as being, like, second and third best, respectively, whatever order you want to put them in. This one is obviously Maestros and Riveteers, and that's like mid-pack and terrible. I think Riveteers is real bad. So this is not the one you want to be in, but hey, you could still make a totally respectable red-black deck in this format.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is that I think red is really not where you want to be, and it kind of boils down to some of these red. Well, some of these red cards suck.
These commons are not as good as the commons that are in the other colors.
Yeah, I can't remember if I said this last week, but I have really hated Light 'em Up. Like, very much so. This card is bad.
I think you went on your Light 'em Up rant off air, actually. So.
Yeah. So,
I don't know if the listeners heard it.
well, here you go. Light 'em Up is like one of the worst cards with some of the coolest pictures. I was so stoked about like the finger gun thing, and this card. It needs Casualty 1. Casualty 2 is just the worst. Sorcery speed, dealing 2 to something where most of like a lot of these flyers that you're dealing with are like 3 or 4. So you have to like 2 for 1 yourself to kill the Echo Inspector. Like, come on. And a real creature too with Casualty 2. You don't want to play this card. Unless you're just using it to deal 2 damage to something. But overall, I've just been really upset every time I've tried to play red. I just always feel sad about every card. It's like, oh, well, I don't really like this card. All these comments just don't really excite me in any way. So it just feels like red to me is the weakest link of everything in the set, which feels kind of similar to Kamigawa. So, but this time you can't play mono red and be good. So,
Yeah, calling out Light 'em Up is worth it because it's just one of those cards that if you're not paying that much attention, it looks like it's a good card. Like, it's like, oh yeah, we've all seen the 2 mana like red removal spell with the upside from the set. It's probably good. It always is. No, this one's not good. This one is. I mean, I would say it's bad, but like I don't know. It's probably mid pack as far as red commons go.
Yeah,
the red commons are quite bad. Obviously, Strangle is the best red common.
Yeah.
And then everything else kind of stinks. Like, what's the second best red common? Like, Exhibition Magician?
I would say that the one that there are 2 that do the most work to me, and it's either Plasma Jockey, which tends to really hurt if you're racing, or Wrecking Crew is a card that will come down and really gum up the board.
Exactly. Just think about those cards that you're submitting as like second best red common.
They're just not good. But
I even like think Mayhem Patrol might be on there for me. It's like the Menace Blitz 2-drop, just because it's a 2-drop in red. That's not super embarrassing to play.
Yeah, and sometimes it makes your combat kind of annoying for your opponent, but I just don't like the other ones. I don't like the Jackhammer is terrible. I don't like the combat tricks very much. I barely even play Big Score. Like, I'm just like, ugh.
Oh, I don't like Big Score in draft really.
It's
even though it's like the most powerful. It's probably like the best card in the set, but no, I don't like it.
I don't like it.
Red is totally a splash color for me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to only splash it, and only splash it for a charm or something. You know, something really good. So I'm trying to be blue-black and then splash red if red's going to be in my deck, basically. But if you do find yourself drafting red because everyone else is avoiding it, you should know that you're looking for Strangles. That's like the card that tips you off. Mm-hmm. Like I love Riveteer's Requisitioner. If we go to start moving to uncommons, Torch Breath is obviously good. So those are the kind of cards that if they're getting passed around, you see a late Torch Breath, you're like, okay, nobody's playing red. Torch Breath's super splashable too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. But otherwise, yeah, honestly, you're kind of trying to avoid red, and that's why I think you don't really want to be Rakdos. Rakdos also has a bit of a sacrifice theme, like it always does, but it just doesn't really get there for me. Like, sure, yeah, I could sacrifice like dorky creatures, I guess, but the active treason effect being 4 mana really stinks.
And it's an uncommon.
and uncommon, so it's just like the big thing about limited sack decks is you steal their creature, attack them with it, sack it to get some sort of advantage, and that's how you get your sort of card advantage. That's how you get your 2-for-1s. But this one is only an uncommon, and it's 4 mana. Like, it makes a treasure, but usually, you know, you're hoping to sack it with like your body double or whatever, body dropper,
yeah.
Which you don't need the mana for. Like you need you need more than 1 treasure for.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know, it's just too expensive for that effect, and you'll probably not even get one. And so you're kind of relying on just sacking crummy creatures like Corrupt Court Official type stuff, which is fine. I just don't think it's really there. Like, it's just not high impact enough to be what you're kind of going in on.
Yeah, I have just been not really impressed with it. Like, it is always leaning on all the black cards. Like, all the good uncommons are black for this deck. So, like, we didn't talk about this yet, but whack is, like, you were talking about torch breath, which is the cycle of, like, hates on a color cards. But I really like whack because it's the card that costs 1 mana, kill a flyer, basically, in black. Because most of the good flyers are white, and you can hate on white. White's the best color, so then the card that hates on white's going to be really strong. But yeah, I've seen some body dropper decks where you're just trying to sack things, and then you're playing with the Forge Boss, which deals 2 damage every time you sack a creature, but it only does it once a turn. Which I actually came into the situation where my opponent good gamed me, and then I was at 2 life. They good gamed me, and then went to sack a creature, and then it didn't do anything because they had already done it earlier in the turn, and they just said oops, and then I ended up winning the game by like tempoing them out and bouncing stuff and just slamming 4/5s and attacking them, and it just looked really rough. Where it's like, yep, no, it didn't get there.
And it's just like, you have Fatal Grudge? Like, what the hell is Fatal Grudge?
I was going to say that. Fatal Grudge fucking sucks. I put this in my deck thinking that it had a lot of text, so it must be good. And then every time I read it when it was in my hand, I was like, this card's terrible.
I hate this card. I have to sack something so that they also sack their worst thing.
Like great. This is terrible. Yeah, it's hard when... having a board presence is really important in this set because it's pretty fast, and so doing casualty stuff where your spells get stronger when you sacrifice creatures is a little bit better, but just sacking things to try to give your creature menace, or it's just not getting there fast enough. So I haven't liked. I think it's fine. But if I'm playing red again, I want to be playing blue-black splash red for like a Maestro's Charm or like any of the Maestro family cards, as opposed to just any of the other red cards that I don't like. So
yeah, I feel like you can tell which color pairs are good just by looking at the 2 uncommons that are in each of them. It's like blue-white gets, just make a couple of unblockable stuff with a bunch of counters on it, and 3/1 flyer that draws you a bunch of cards. Red-black gets like a 3/4, and the stupid card that like 2-for-1, that 2-for-2's you, but like you don't get to choose what dies.
Yeah.
What the hell is that? And then, the next, when we get to Gruul, like, those ones are just, what the hell is this?
Well, that's so we're kind of shitting on this, which we are, and I don't really like John that much, but let's go into the real problem, the problem child, which is playing red-green.
Yeah. I was going to say red-black is the worst, and then I remembered Gruul, and I was like, oh no, Gruul is obviously the worst.
Gruul's really bad. And again, this is if you're playing Cabaretti, I think Cabaretti decks are perfectly fine, and you can play them, but you have to lean on the good white cards, the white-green cards that are good. Splash red for only good cards that are red, and Security Rocks is not that card.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And Stimulus Package, no.
I have had problems with Stimulus Package at times, but you really have to have synergy, and usually it's just too late by the time that if you're trying to swarm.
It's just asking too much, because you get this going late, you get a bunch of treasures, but then now it's late game, so you need a way to make 1/1s relevant as well. So it's like, I need not only this, but I also need a way to pump up my 1/1s so that they're actually relevant by the time I was able to create a bunch of them. It's like,
yeah,
okay, you got 4 1/1s on turn 8. I don't care, unless you have a way to pump your team, or the ceremonial groundbreaker or something.
Yeah, or you need a Cabaretti charm or something to get in. It's
right.
Yeah. So obviously this is leaning more on the green cards, which we haven't been able to talk a lot about. So I think we should talk about some green stuff as we're going into it.
Yeah.
Which I do like green. I'm fine playing green. Just the citizen thing for you're going to be playing a lot of citizens and red green. and then moving into white green, but it's not super awesome. I'm just more interested in anything that's like, obviously Jewel Thief is awesome because it's another creature that gives you a bunch of value when you play it, and it's just solid for a 3/3 common with vigilance and trample. Come on, and a treasure. What is this? This is so good.
Yeah. Prize fight, obviously, that's a lot for your money there. An instant speed fight spell that then creates a treasure, like it's pretty close to a 1-mana instant speed fight spell.
Yeah, I feel like haven't loved Prize Fight just because it felt like a lot of times, especially if I'm playing red, like my creatures are always just gonna die. Like I never felt like I'm gonna use this, I'm gonna break my shield, and that's the point. Is like I'm gonna break a shield counter to kill this thing, or my creatures are just gonna trade, and then I got a treasure out of the deal. Basically, I don't know, for whatever reason, Prize Fight I haven't loved, but I also haven't been playing it very much.
I like it. I like it as like, it's just there's some cool ways you can use it too. Sometimes I'll attack, they'll block with their thing with a shield counter, and then I'll like fight.
Okay.
My 1/1 or my shield counter on to ping it off that they weren't expecting. Stuff like that. The fact that it's instant speed makes it like it would be pretty bad I think if it was sorcery in this format, but instant I think gets it there. But also like green's commons aren't necessarily the best. Green kind of thrives on being, to me, green thrives on green white being good. Like it's one of those weird things where you're either green white or green red, and green white is one of the best color pairs, and green red is the worst.
So yeah, you could really fall into that trap. I think the reason I don't like Prize Fight is just because Bouncer's Beatdown is so much better that I know, obviously, yes, of course, an uncommon's gonna be better than the common one, but it always comes around. I'm like, oh, sick, this card's gonna be great. I'm like, no, it's not the one I want, and it doesn't. Sometimes it Prize Fight, when I see them, it makes me think that green's open, and in actuality, I should not be thinking that as much, and I should just be like, no, that's just a card I can play. It's not the reason I get into green. I think that's what my problem is.
I mean, Bouncer's Beatdown is incredible because it also like doesn't fizzle if they just kill your creature. It just might reduce how much damage it does. Yeah. And it's instant speed. Like there's nothing to dislike about Bouncer's Beatdown. But I think Prize Fight's totally been respectable for me. But in terms of like, we've already talked about how bad the green-red uncommons are. I guess in general I've found green's commons a bit lacking, but its uncommons are pretty good. So you kind of end up in these decks because you got some sweet green uncommons. Yeah. And then I guess, I don't know how you ended up in green-red, like something went wrong, basically. But.
Yeah, or you're prioritizing things. You need to look at what you're prioritizing and what comes around you think is really exciting. Though, taking note for the uncommons, Freelance Muscle, which is the 5-mana 4/4 Rhino Warrior that attacks and gets big, just huge, is exactly what I don't want to see my opponent have when they already have a problem card. If they happen to, I guess, I'm kind of moving into a different color pair, so maybe I should stop talking about that. But it's just so hard because I don't see red-green very often because it's so terrible. It's just...
Freelance Muscle is scary, man. If you can give it trample somehow, that's always like, whoa. But yeah, I feel like I often just chump it. I've never actually had it. It's always been on the other side of the board. But I'm always like, oh, an 8/8. Well, whatever.
Yeah, it always just feels like a clock to me.
But I think if you can like put, I think this is what you were alluding to, is the Groundbreaker. But just a way to give it trample is pretty great. In terms of like, I wanted to ask you about For the Family, because this card I've found just better than I thought it was going to be. It's just like the +2/+2, but if you have enough creatures, which you really often do actually, it's +4/+4. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, like you win a lot of games off +4/+4 when they don't expect it.
Yeah, so this is normally a card I would really be in for, right? I feel like I just haven't played enough decks where I am gonna have 4 creatures, Because most of the time, my interaction with this card is someone attacks me, and I'm like, okay, well, it could be one of the combat tricks. If I block, I'm going to trade for whatever combat trick that is. It doesn't really matter which one it is. I know I'm going to lose my creature. But I'll be like, all right, well, I can't take that damage, so I'll just block. And if it's this card, sweet. But if it's a different card, also sweet. So it never seemed like it stood out to me compared to the other combat tricks. It was just like, that's one of them. Saying
I
that,
think it stands out to me because the green commons just aren't that good. So this one's been one of my better ones. That being said, I'm not taking a bunch of For the Families.
no, for sure.
But, it wins combat early game, and late game when you just do I have 5 attackers, you have 4 blockers. It's like, they're dead.
You kill you. Yeah. That's always good. I have been leaning fairly heavily on the High Rise Sawjack, which is a card I normally would not give a shit about. The 3-mana 2/3 reach. But
yeah, it's surprisingly good because there's so many good flyers.
Yeah, because the best deck is flying and you have to be able to block, and this card can trade with most of them because it gets, bigger when it blocks flyers. So it ends up being very important where you play these sweet, the freelance muscle or whatever, and then they just have like a 3/4 flyer, and you're like, okay, well, I can't block that, and you keep chumping with your 1/1s, so I'm gonna lose.
And it's citizen kind of matters.
Yeah, that's true. Do we want to kind of go into the citizen thing? I jumped on it earlier, but I think I'm gonna jump back on it if we're moving into, this is the cabaret theme, and the citizen thing. It brings me back to my thing. Hey, you're playing a fantasy game. Why is tribal common folk interesting? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, I get it.
At least it's not like, when people complain about human tribal, I'm like, yeah, I get that, but it's also one of the most popular tribes ever. Like, there's humans in every set, so maybe popular is not the right word. It's like prolific. Like, there are so many humans because every set has some humans, so you can identify with them. At least this is like citizens, and they've went out of their way to make a lot of the citizens non-human.
That's true.
They're always like humanoid, I guess, but there's like, only like 1 or 2 that are human.
Yeah, they're like a bird or a I don't know, something else.
Cat.
Yeah. I think it's not compelling to me, but having the tokens be 1/1 citizens and having some cards that work well with those, specifically the shovel, I do enjoy that. I think that's nice, but I'm not going out of my way to build a citizen deck because I think it's cool. It's really just a token deck, which might randomly have a shovel, which is really the best reason to me.
That's kind of the way it happens. Like, I did a citizens thing, and it was mostly just like, okay, I'm playing tokens. And then during the game, I'd have to be like, which of my cards are citizens? This is important.
Yeah, because you don't really know, right? If you have Darling of the Masses, you'll figure it out. But without you do have to look at your cards a little bit harder because sometimes you would think a card would be a citizen, maybe, but it's not always extremely clear. Just because most of the time they're So a citizen on New Capenna, are they just like a person that isn't part of a family? Is that the point?
I think that's the idea. They're like just regular people. They're not in the mafia.
Yeah, which is then they go to the parties at the cabaret. Okay, so the only family they are around is the cabaret because they like people.
Right.
All right, that makes sense. I can get on board with that. Yeah.
That actually checks out. I like that actually. It's nice.
Yeah, they're obviously not hanging out with the Obscura, just like in a shadow somewhere.
Right. Yeah. This top secret organization. There's just like Joe from the bar is hanging out there too. Like, hey, what are you guys talking about?
Yeah.
I really needed your opinion on this.
Yeah, because now I'm wondering, like, who is the darling of the masses? This is just like the hottest girl in town, I guess. The hottest elf in town that rides a panther. Just...
I mean, that's pretty badass.
That's true. I mean, like, yeah, Pet Panther is pretty cool. It's just, it's kind of funny. It's just like the best of the citizens, and the real royalty are all the family people, of course.
Now, that being said, we've alluded to it, but, our last color pair here, green-white, I think, for me, it's the second best one.
Yeah.
So blue-white, I think, is ahead by a fair amount, but green-white is also good. Even though like you might expect blue black to be better because it goes into like the second best two families, whereas green white goes into the best one and like the second worst one. I find shooting for the stars on that best one is really good, and like green white cards are just good. Like again, look at the uncommons: Ceremonial Groundbreaker and Darling of the Masses. Those are very, very strong cards.
Yeah.
That can win the game on their own.
Darling of the Masses,
Forge Boss, and Fatal Grudge.
yeah, exactly. Darling of the Masses just does. Like, a lot of times people just have 3-power creatures, and you attack every single turn, and they just, like, for whatever reason, can't trade or, like, double block the Darling, and then you just have a bunch of 1/1s that are 2/1s. So, it's...
Honestly, just looking at the 2-color uncommons, these are probably the best ones. It's, like, the best pair, you know, if you're comparing... The blue-white ones are really good, too, but I think these ones might even just be, on their own, the best, too.
Yeah, because now, if someone turn 3s a Ceremonial Groundbreaker, I'm like, this is going to be a slog.
It's tough.
Yeah, just because...
That's what my Citizens deck was relying on. I had 2 of those.
That's so good.
I think I 7-1 in that one. Went 7-1, but it was all just because I drew that card a lot, and I had tap and dev a lot of Citizens in my deck, and I was like, it feels so dumb to have a +2/+1 trample equip 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's stupid.
It's so stupid, but it's so strong, and I really... It's really surprised me how great that card is. You know, put that on a fish. Everything, put it on a fish.
Yeah.
So, double striking fish.
I even had some fun putting it on a Cabaretti Initiate, which was in my deck regrettably, but it was still just like, all right, well, you want to take 6 trample? That's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Because that does sound nice.
So
like,
what are you gonna do
double
about
striking
it? Or are
it.
you gonna trade a removal spell for my 1-drop? Like, up to you.
Yeah, go for it. Have fun. Yeah, I love this shovel, man. And again, I said this earlier, but I'll bring it back around. All the charms are awesome, but I was looking through them, and it doesn't look like any of the charms actually destroy artifacts. So there is a lot more enchantment destruction. I think that's mainly because of the witness protection and the hold for ransom, just so you can get your creatures back. But they don't destroy the shovel. And so the shovel ends up being a really big problem that's just there and makes every random creature in your deck strong, and your opponent just can't really deal with it easily. Unless they play like Broken Wings, or there's the 5-mana deal 5 in red that also might destroy an artifact that nobody's playing red and nobody's playing that card. So you're pretty safe. I think the shovel is a good plan. I like the shovel plan.
And putting it on Freelance Muscle, I'll pay 3 for that.
Oh, God, yes.
That's a 10-power trampler. No, it's a 12-power trampler.
You're just dead. Yeah, that card just kills you. Well, to note, like, obviously, Freelance Muscle, you need another creature to make it bigger, but yes.
Oh, right, it's among other creatures. Yeah, okay. So it's still probably like a 9-power trampler.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And I've really liked Luxurious Libation.
That is exactly the card I was about to talk about.
Yeah. I feel like I'm bringing up a lot of pump spells today. What's going on? It's these seltzers, man. They're going straight to my head.
Yeah, we were drinking that Halo. This is the closest thing to Halo probably that we've had, is a seltzer like this. Don't worry, Wizards. We didn't put it in martini glasses. But no, talk about Luxurious Libations, because that should just be the card for us, basically. That should have been our preview card if we ever got one. That's us.
Yeah. I feel like my libations are currently not that luxurious, actually. But,
they're creepy as fuck. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. No, honestly, the tacking a 1/1 onto the pump spell just makes it so good. It just makes it so good. Like, honestly, you're totally happy, like, playing this for 2 mana sometimes, winning a combat and getting a 1/1 out of it. It just feels gross, you know? And so when you add that rider to... It's like if they add draw a card to a pump spell. Suddenly that pump spell is like the best card in the format. It's not quite that, because it's just a 1/1, which is on average going to be worse than drawing a card. But still good. Like, a 1/1's a real... A 1/1 is just a real creature.
Yeah.
In this format, because it chump blocks, you know, it adds to the effect of stuff. And you didn't have to jump through any hoops. You know, I was talking about, like, stimulus package, just making a bunch of 1/1s late. It's not good enough. But this feels free. Like, I would have done this anyways. And then it also has that bonus that in the late game, if they don't block, they die.
Yeah. So when you were talking...
Fireballs their face.
Yeah, when you're talking about for the family, when people attack in with a bunch of mana open, this is the card I'm worried about. And if they end up playing for the family, I'm much happier. I'm like, okay.
Right. I mean, a lot of the time you're dead anyways, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if I'm blocking or trying to figure out what's going on. But I'm always worried about this is the card. I'm like, that's the pump spell I don't want to see, because then I can't even like block in a weird way or have a trick of my own of killing one of their things and then attack them for lethal next turn, because then they have a blocker, which is like, fuck, and why did you... So good.
This is often how I've been beating the Flyers decks. Is like, we're racing, and then it's like, oh, you didn't expect to take 9 this turn. That sucks for you. You did the math, you planned 3 turns in advance, you didn't expect to take 9.
Yeah,
so.
This card is especially good if you're playing the Illuminator Virtuoso. Because, anytime...
Which you shouldn't be.
But with this card, is really good, because you can connive and double strike what you're hitting them for like 19, 18? Great. Love it.
Yeah. I think my favorite thing with this card was main phasing it on a fish, just to flex, and my opponent just concedes. You're tapped out? Here's a 10 power fish, buddy.
See? Amazing. So good.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, that brings us back to brokers are the best. And I just want to say that coming into the set, I was so excited to play brokers. And now everyone has to play brokers, and everyone will remember this set as the broker set. And I love it. I love every little bit of it. It's amazing.
Yeah. I came in hyped on Juns. So.
Sorry, buddy.
Sorry, the Riveteer.
That's.
I don't even know what their family's called. It's like, why bother?
Yeah, why bother? I don't know. They're a bunch of construction workers. Whatever.
Okay, so there is one card, speaking of blue, green, white, that I need an updated opinion on. Gathering Throng. How do we feel about Gathering Throng?
I like it. Yes.
Amazing, right?
Gathering Throng.
And by which I mean I expected it to be awful, and it's good.
The thing about this is that this is so much better than the stupid Wretched Throng, because it's obviously an enters the battlefield effect. So then it's just a 3-mana, 3/1, draw a card, or 2 or 3.
Right. Plus Wretched Throng was a 2/1, right? So it's like, not only is it better,
yeah.
It's...
I mean, that was a 2-drop, this is a 3-drop. But having this as a 3-drop, and then it trades, it feels free, because you can trade it with most things. You're okay sacking this to a casualty thing because you have another one in your hand. You draw cards to connive with. It just ends up being so great. You're like, oh, sick. Well, play this. It can trade profitably, and then I can connive the copies away because I don't care as much.
Totally.
It's become so good.
Honestly, I'm pretty happy just with 2.
2 is good.
Just play 1 and draw the second one.
Yeah, that's
good enough.
And that's crazy as the barrier. Because other times we've seen like 3-mana 2/2s, which I've been like, I didn't like that as much. But because it's a 3/1, I really like it.
Yeah.
It just ends up trading for a bunch of cards that, or being able to attack through stuff that people don't want to trade off for this Throng because you have one in your hand. I also am interested in the play where you play your Gathering. It's probably not correct, but playing your Gathering Throng, having 2 in your deck, but only taking 1. So they think that there's not another one. So then you play your Gathering Throng again and get the other one, and they're like, no!
Yeah. No, realistically, the only time you do that is if you would discard to hand size.
Yeah. But,
otherwise. Which is very rare. Like, why do you have 7 cards on turn 3?
Or to flex, It just sounds, to me it sounds...
Just do the old Legion Angel version.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just too used to playing Legion Angel.
I think it is.
Only get 1. Okay.
Yeah, I could. It's like when I was playing Blood Fountain and only took 1 card for creature from my graveyard. No, that's all I can get, right?
Yeah, I don't want to, steamroll my opponent too bad.
Too bad. I'll just take 1 of these. Anyway, so that is our on draft for New Capenna. Talk to us if you think we're completely wrong, because we'd love to hear that. We're not, but at least with brokers. We're not with brokers. But tell us if you think Maestros or Obscures better, basically. Or give us your takes on why Gruul is actually playable, or I guess.
Yeah, and I just wanted to leave a last nugget of wisdom. I read this on Twitter, I forget who, but if it's true, it's actually crazy. But apparently, according to the stats, one of the best performing commons in the set is Broker's Hideout.
Yes.
I think it's like third best or something.
That's amazing. Because also, not only the fact that it's a land, and it's when we were coming into this, a lot of people were like, oh, these don't seem very good. I felt pretty low on them myself. I thought like the dual ones that would draw a card were much better. They end up being quite nice having them. And I love that it's just, Brokers is so good that the sack land.
That's how good Brokers is.
Yeah.
The crappy Evolving Wilds that only gets Brokers lands is one of the best performing cards.
Because those are all the best cards. That's funny.
It facilitates the strong card. It has got a 60% win rate on this bitch.
That's amazing. So you heard it here, folks. Take the Broker's Hideout because it is winning games. But with that, Jeff, we need to take another seltzer break before our last call.
Let's do it. All right, what monstrosity have you set me up with here on this last one?
Well, it's more bubbles, of course. But this time, whoa, that's
fruity cereal. Oh my god.
Yeah, so this is Bubbles Saturday Morning Cartoons, which is a fruity cereal seltzer. All of these at 5%. And now, obviously, the only reason I wanted to do this is because the flavors seemed so ridiculous that I had to try them. And why not try them on the show, right? Even though this is, obviously the first seltzers we've ever had. But not the first time we haven't done beer, so...
On the show, yeah. I think, to me, this is the creepiest art of all of them. It's just Bubbles sitting on his couch with an empty bowl of cereal in one hand, like, looking pensive, sad, and murderous. This one spells like real trouble. This is sort of like the new Joker movie, giving me that vibe.
Yeah.
This person is unstable.
Yes. Bubbles has some things they got to work out.
Yeah.
But anyway, as we drink this, we are going to rate all of the seltzers we've had today. It's still so funny saying that. I don't know why. And we're going to go through our rating system. So as we drink this, let's talk a little bit about this. We'll see how today goes with this. This might be more of like a pick which one was our favorite and rank them on our favorites. And I don't know how well they're going to fit into our regular system. But
agreed.
Let's just talk about our rating system just so people can understand exactly where we're coming from. So
we might use these terms, right?
Yeah, as always, we are...
Holy shit. Okay.
As always, we are rating our drinks on a scale of bronze to mythic, which is, of course, the tiers in Arena. This has nothing to do with what tier you are in currently, because we're all in different tiers at different times in our life. And no judgment there. But it's just a fun way to rank our drinks and usually our beer. But bronze drinks, wow, that's so weird to say. Bronze drinks are trash. They you don't even want to finish them. They're horrible. You just like crack it open, barely take a sip, and you just got to dump it out.
Yeah, silver beers are sort of uninteresting is the best word for them. Macro brews tend to fall into this category, but also a micro brew that doesn't have a lot going on. Yeah,
a gold drink, because we're talking about seltzers today. They're fine. You're like, okay, this is the thing. But you probably won't drink it again and don't really think about it. You're like, it's there.
Yeah. Up one level from that is, a platinum beer. It's solid. You would drink it again. It's totally fine.
Diamond seltzers are exceptional. These are the seltzers that you tell everyone to drink because they are just so good. And you like this seltzer a lot.
All right, I'll switch to your drink system, although I really don't think a Mythic Seltzer exists. But all right, so Mythic Drink would be the absolute best of the best. You would recommend these to anyone who will listen. These are your favorites, and you go out of your way to get them.
I do think drink makes sense because we could talk about cocktails and a bunch of other stuff. It is hard
Do
specifically.
we have to change it going forward forever, or can I say beer next week?
You can say beer next week. It's just because seltzers are today, you know.
Yeah,
All right.
because we did have wine once.
We did figure out which episode that was.
Yeah.
So, Jeff, do you know which one is your favorite for this evening?
Okay, I need to taste this one again.
I think it's so hard to pick one, but I think I know which one I want, and I know it.
I've just been trying to look up what kind of alcohol is used in this. I just can't find that information anywhere. It tastes like vodka to me. I don't know if you're getting that same thing. But
Not really. I don't know.
Cool.
Anyway, I got it. I know which
okay,
one I'm going to
why don't you kick us off then? Are we starting with our favorite or least favorite?
I'm going to start with my favorite.
Okay.
I liked the original bubbles the most, mango flavor. And I think the reason...
I wanted to pick that, but I didn't want to be boring.
Yeah, I also didn't want to be boring, but I wanted to be truthful.
Yeah.
I thought this one was the best, but it's probably because I'm used to this flavor the most. And this is actually probably one of the best mango seltzers I've had, which mango is a very popular seltzer flavor. And, okay, mini seltzer rant. So, I have had a lot of these. My fiance used to drink more of them and didn't really want beer as much, kind of for like a fitness thing, or there's less sugar or whatever, and it's not beer.
For health reasons.
For health reasons, my biggest thing with seltzers is that they need to have a little bit of sugar. Some sort of sugar is really important, even if it's 1 gram or whatever. It has to have something because it's losing body otherwise. And it tastes mainly like TV static and seems to be kind of just like, just very, ugh. Also very much like, oh, this is a poorly made drink somebody gave me at a party. That's what they can taste like sometimes, right?
Exactly. That's what a lot of them remind me of. It's sort of like, oh, you had some like soda lying around and you didn't really think about how you made this drink. You just kind of poured some stuff into a cup.
Yeah. And a lot of the times people are drinking seltzers specifically because they don't want to have any sugar. Now, I work at a gin distillery and I make cocktails all the time, but my main thing is just that like there are 3 components to a cocktail. It's a spirit, something sour or bitter, and then something sweet. And so when you get rid of one of them, which is the sugar, which most people try to get rid of, it just makes it really unbalanced and then unpleasant. And so having even just a little hint of it will make a bigger difference than you honestly think. And this can be just like a bar spoon of simple syrup if you're making it at home or something. That being said, I did like this one. There's something different going on with these seltzers. Like we were talking about, the color is like kind of a pale, this like kind of straw color.
I did like the first one. I've been making fun of seltzers a lot, mostly just because it's fun.
Yeah.
I actually did like the mango one. I wonder if using just a touch of malt is exactly what you're talking about. It gives that natural sweetness, like a natural sugar from... Like, I wonder if they are fermenting a tiny amount of malt and then kicking that up. Like, I'm sure they're not distilling that because this isn't a whiskey. But they're kicking that up with... To me, it tastes like vodka, but... I don't 100% trust myself on that because it's like, I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience with these types of things. It's just giving me sort of that after flavor that vodka tends to give me.
It definitely tastes like nothing. So when we're talking about the alcohol, the alcohol doesn't seem present. It's not a flavor I can taste. And that's for the most part what vodka is made to do.
Maybe that's the other thing too, is like I don't taste gin and I know that it's gin or vodka most likely. So maybe that's the
kicker.
Trick my brain, the circus trick my brain is pulling on me. Whatever they've done, it is sort of appealing. Like one thing I don't like in seltzers is sometimes I'm worried they would go too sweet. Sounds like you're saying that's not really the case.
Yeah.
Most of them tend to go the other way. But B, I'd be if that's their market that they're like selling to, I'd be worried. I'm very sensitive to like the fake aspartame kind of taste.
Yeah.
And I'd be worried that would be present in some of these. Like, how do you give it a mango flavor without adding any sugar to it?
It would be like an extract, basically, which is just kind of like, it tastes like it, and then it just tastes like, they always have an aftertaste of like, I don't know, if you're listening, yeah, obviously you are, if you're listening, White Claw does have a little bit of sugar in it, which is one of the reasons why I think it has done so well, because they do taste good because of that. And some more off-brand ones won't, and touting that they are zero sugar, which is a great marketing gimmick, but the product tends to be bad.
But it doesn't taste good, right?
Yeah.
So you have to try to strike that balance of tasting good and being low sugar, because it is a big part of their market that it's sort of better for you than beer.
That's the point. Yeah. That you won't feel as full, and that you can you can drink it and be an active person, I guess. But in any case, these are bigger bodied seltzers. I haven't tasted seltzer that feels this big. Whether it feels very sugar forward, it could be on the higher end of this product. So, which is something that I kind of like more, because it feels more like its own thing.
It's neat. It's definitely interesting.
It's definitely interesting. Jeff, which one did you like the most? I know I said I liked the mango one. I don't know if you are going to go back on.
No, I like the mango one the best. I'm ready with my second best, which is this one.
This one?
The fruity cereal.
The fruity cereal one. This one is good. Fruity cereal is not something that I'm interested. Like I wasn't. It was the one that I was least excited about, because I'm not super interested in cereal, because I don't like cereal very much.
So I don't eat a lot of cereal, but when I do, it is never fruity cereal. Like,
yeah, this is
I'm like the boring like granola. It's like essentially granola kind of guy.
Well, granola is delicious, and you can eat granola without milk, and it's good. It's good in a lot.
Exactly.
Granola's
yogurt,
great.
So good.
Yeah, yogurt.
And so like that's my theory as well. Granola is awesome, and then if you could get my cereal as close to granola as possible,
yes,
like that's the best cereal.
Exactly. Thank you. That's exactly what cereal should be. Anything that gets soggy is just the fucking worst.
Get out of here.
It's so gross.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing worse than like soggy cereal. Like,
soggy Fruit Loops.
Oh God.
Just like what we're drinking right now.
Basically. Yeah, there's something about like there's a part of me that wants to like make the giant kamikaze bowl of cereal with like all different, every little bit of every box in your house, and you pour milk on it, and you eat cartoons all day. Eat cereal while watching cartoons all day. But the thing is that it gets so soggy so fast. Like within 10 minutes, that's like a disgusting bowl of slush, and I just want.
Oh yeah, it's like a race against the clock.
Yeah, and then you feel all milky and sloshy. I also think I'm like low key lactose intolerant, so I think milk isn't great to just drink. Anyway, side tangent.
Yes, so is Julia. So we have like oat milk, I think, right now, but we'll always have almond milk or oat milk or something.
Yeah. Honestly, delicious, but.
Oat milk goes real well with like granola.
It does.
Adjacent cereals.
It's very good. I used to have like almond milk with those things too, and I'd get the granola with the sliced almonds in it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the nuttiness in the milk actually is better than milk with those.
It's good
granolas
because you don't make granola out of cows.
Yeah.
Steak granola. Fuck. We're getting so off topic.
Muesli, baby. Muesli.
Muesli is good. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. I think I liked the cotton candy one more than this, just because it was crazy. Okay. And I would probably buy it again. This one just seems a little bit closer to the fruit flavors that I've had in other ones. That might be... Right. It's not really lemon lime, but like it might be closer in that family of fruit.
Sort of like tropical.
Yeah, it kind of has that maybe
tropical citrus kind of thing.
There's a little bit of like there's a citrus in there for sure. So maybe that's why I'm like, oh yeah, this is the flavor that I'm like, I don't like this one as much.
Too pedestrian for you.
It's when you go to the LCBO and it's all like lime flavored stuff, and they're out of the mango and cherry flavors, and you're like, oh, no one likes the lime one. I guess it's the only one I can buy. So
Meanwhile, I'm like, score, lime.
yeah. But yeah, so I liked the cotton candy more. As far as a rating system for this, I want to hear what you're gonna say.
So I think you're right that it just doesn't jive with our rating system, because I probably won't get any of these ever again. But I will recommend them to people. Like if somebody who I know kind of likes seltzers, or like kind of likes beer and seltzers, I might say, have you tried these ones? Like, go get the mango bubbles. It's really interesting. If you like beer and seltzers, this is like right up. This is kind of a seltzer that has some beer influence in it, so it's really cool. And like anyone who drinks seltzers, I'd probably tell them to give these a shot and see what they think. So it's like that weird diamond is would recommend, but I won't probably drink it again. So it's like golds. It's like,
yeah,
scale's just not really built for this.
Exactly. I definitely agree with what you're saying. And I would probably put these just in gold, because I do think something is actually going on. You can have these where it feels like it was imbalanced, and these all felt fairly balanced, even if they were a bit overpowering. Like the cotton candy one was a bit like, wow, the room smells like
on
cotton.
the nose. It was crazy.
It's
like
so much.
Every time I took a sip, it was like, whoa, cotton candy.
It's so
and
much.
It's not
cotton
even
candy.
from the taste.
Yeah, it's just like from
taste.
what it smells like, which is insane. I don't know what they did or how they did that.
Yeah.
So, I know this has been a long review, but thanks for staying with us for this one. I do think that they are gold. Not going to be silver, because something is definitely going on. I probably won't get them again, but you're right. I will recommend them to anyone who drinks seltzers, saying like, this is closest to, wow, there is a lot of stuff going on in the seltzer that a lot of the other ones, it's just like a, oh sweet, this is the Bud Lime one. It's cheap, and I don't want to get full before I want to have something to drink on a hot day, but I don't want to have beer yet, because I'm going to have a good beer later. That's basically what it feels like.
Like a weird way to explain it is, there are people out there, or there's someone out there where this would be like their favorite drink ever.
Yeah.
You know? And because it's unique enough, but still hits a lot of relatable notes, that it's like somebody out there, this is their favorite drink ever.
Yeah. It's also so interesting. Sorry, just talking about marketing, that like, this is not marketed to like the basic white girl that all the other seltzers
This is the person who would kill the basic white.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
This is their worst fear.
Yeah, exactly. This clown Bubbles. So I really love that Third Moon took a stab at trying to get beard bros into trying seltzers, and they did. We tried them, whether we identify as beard bros or beer bros, not beard bros. But
Well, is that because I shaved? I'm not in the club anymore.
But yeah, I was just really happy that they had this. It seems like such a crazy idea, and it just obviously came out of a night of drinking and saying, how funny would it be if Bubbles was the name of a seltzer and the mascot was a clown that's fucking...
Yeah, that's what I like about it too. It's so clearly them like drinking probably their own beer, being like, it'd be great.
Yeah. And then they did.
We should totally do that.
We should do it. So, big props.
When they woke up the next day, they're like, you know what? It wasn't the worst idea. It wasn't just a drunken idea. It was real.
Yeah, and with that, as of today, the cotton candy one is sold out, so you can't even get it anymore because people bought all of it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And it's the worst one. That's crazy.
And it's the second best one. So anyway, Jeff, that's been probably one of our longest review sessions ever, and I don't even know how to categorize it, but there you go. Seltzers checked off. Love it.
If you're in the area, you should try them. Third Moon Brewing. It's worth giving them a try.
Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And but we're coming into closing time. So if you want to...
Closing time.
Oh, boy. It's been like 15 episodes since you've done that.
Yeah, I gotta mix them in.
Yeah. I like that. Good job. If you want to talk to us about your adventure in seltzers or how much you hate them or how much you like them, just find us on Twitter and Instagram at Arena Regulars. Also, you can see what Bubbles looks like on Instagram. So go do that, because
It's also worth it.
it's worth how you're going to lose, how much sleep you're going to lose from looking at this picture.
Yeah. Very enticing. You can't tell us anything about White Claw on Arena, but you can play against us. We might be under the username Arena Regulars Podcast.
If you want to find me personally and attack me for deciding that we had to do seltzers on the show and buying the seltzers and just giving them
hold on.
to Jeff,
I'm gonna get a pen for this. I need to write this down.
you can find me at Zulberg. That's ZEULBERG on Twitter and Instagram. But Jeff, where can they find you?
Okay, just to clarify where I'm supposed to lodge my complaint. By Z, you mean Zed?
No, I mean Z as in Zach. Like,
Okay, I'll have to look this up.
it's like a...
But you can find... Z for Zach will be receiving that criticism from Blues Brews MTG on Twitter. A local hero, they say.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, on iTunes. Follow us on Spotify. Leave us a review there. We're reading all of them, and they have just... There was one today, and it just warmed our hearts. It was so nice.
Loved it.
All of those, the reviews really help us get higher in the rankings, and we pop up more in searches. So it helps spread our podcast, and so if you enjoy us, it really helps us grow. This has been the Arena Regulars.
Reminding you that the only thing worse than a cotton candy seltzer is gruel.
Good night. All right, that's fine.